Hey there, you've wandered onto the VUC, a weekly conference produced by IP Communications and VoIP Community. We would like to thank Simwood.com. Simwood can turn you as a developer into a telco. Our hosted PBX is from onsip.com. You can get a URL that people can click to call you at onsip.com/getonsip. Speaking of SIP, we use the best PSTN and SIP conference bridge in the world, zipdx.com. Our website at vuc.me is on bluehost.com. And thanks to Voxbone for our world local rate dial-ins. And as you can see, this is VUC645 for May 12th, 2017. And I wanted to tell you how much you should be at Camellia World starting 2018. We don't have the date yet, but we've all just gotten back. And it was fantastic. And we'll maybe get into a little bit of that much later. Right now, we're talking MediaSoup. I'm going to pass it over to Michael for the intros.
Okay. I am going to start by pointing out how this came to my attention, which was kind of sort of a back channel kind of thing. I saw a tweet, and in the tweet there was this video conferencing tool or video chat tool that I had not seen before, and there was it looked neat, and the tweet included this picture, and the picture included a URL. And what did I do but immediately go over to that URL, and lo and behold, something entirely new and interesting and available. And so I go to our friendly wire chat, drop a URL in, and before you know it, we have 3 or 4 VUC regulars having a chat on this thing called MediaSoup that we had never seen before. And so I'm poking around the website, looking at things, and lo, it's from José and Inés. And these names are familiar to me, although I think I've seen you on the VUC once or twice before. We've never met. So I immediately fire off an email to Inés and saying, would you like to come talk about this fantastic new project? And here we are. And so welcome, Inés, and thank you for coming along, and José as well. And I am going to start, I know we've been through this before, but I'm going to start with the usual start, and that is, could you tell us something about how you came to be where you are, your beginnings in technology, and kind of the path?
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me start. Well, that's easy. That's a history. Basically, I started in the VoIP world. I mean, in VoIP with PBX, asterisk, SIP protocol, things like that. I spent maybe 4 or even 6 years on that. Then I got interested about WebSocket and WebRTC when it was about just a draft. There was no implementation yet, but of course it has some kind of future and interesting future for adding video and audio capabilities to the browser. So I got interested into it and started playing with it. José Luis and me, in fact, tried to join both worlds, the VoIP and the web. So we did 2 things regarding that. We wrote RFC, the WebSocket transport for the SIP protocol that is widely deployed today. There are many implementations, server-side, client-side, including our own implementation, which is JSIP. So it basically opened the door for VoIP, real VoIP, I mean using the SIP protocol into the web. And then, in fact, we did that before WebRTC came and became real. So after maybe 1 year, WebRTC was already available, very experimental, but it was already working. So well, we just went more into it. Then after some time, we got even more interested in things that you can do in the browser, within web application, more than just VoIP. I think VoIP is, of course, is something cool and it's interesting, but at the end, you feel that with just VoIP, you end just doing things for telephony. And it doesn't matter how much interesting things or interesting stuff you do at server side with platforms, Camellios, things like that. At the end, the problem is that, in my opinion, what you see in the client side is just a phone. It's a basic phone like so many years ago, no much difference. Still, the more advanced feature you can get with it is some video conferencing, but it doesn't work in the PSTN network. So at the end, you just get audio and DTMF, things like that. So, well, I think that our interest in WebRTC became higher, bigger than before. And then we have a missing piece for making interesting things, and it was the server side. We both were interested into multi-video conferencing, and well, we started this project, MediaSoup, just as a side project, I mean, at the beginning. We have spent many years into it, and well, now it's real. We have the first version. We are working on new features for the second version. Well, that's basically my history. So let's José tell.
Yeah, let's Jose. And how do you? What's your path? Is it parallel? Is it different? And what do you see in this?
So my path is really parallel to Iñaki's. In fact, we met for the first time, like I think 6 years ago. We started working together. I started with voice over IP, playing with Asterisk. I joined a company which was creating a PBX on top of Asterisk. And then I moved a bit more to the core of SIP, to the SIP protocol itself. I started playing with Camelio as well. By that time, I met Iñaki, and we started to write JSIP. He was already writing an outbound proxy, which is called OverSIP, and it was a proxy that was aimed to be used with WebSocket as a transport for SIP, and hence we made the client part, which was a JSIP, and parallelly the WebSocket RFC came to play, and yes, just as Iñaki said, a missing piece was there, which was the media side on the server side, and that's how we started with MediaSoup until today, which we will later see a demo of it.
Yeah, most excellent. And so, what were your goals then in launching MediaSoup? Where are you taking it? What? First of all, let's start with what is it? We've been talking about it, but what actually is it? Because there will be people watching who are not developers necessarily, but perhaps people who are invested in this space, financially or from a management point of view. Yeah. So let's lay it out.
WebRTC is a server-side MediaSoup is a server-side WebRTC engine. I think that's how we define it. It's signaling agnostic. It doesn't speak SIP. It doesn't talk any other protocol. It provides an API, and it allows you creating bit connection, streams, audio streams, video streams. It follows the ORTC standard, and yeah, it's super flexible. And it's not constrained to what we already know about voice over IP. It's a WebRTC engine. Iñaki?
Yeah, in fact, well, just to clarify, when José says that MediaSoup provides with an API, we mean that he provides with a JavaScript API, because he is, at the end, MediaSoup is just a Node.JS module, a library that can be integrated into a larger application. And yes, the fact that we don't provide with any kind of signaling protocol, HTTP or nothing like that, WebSocket or SIP protocol, nothing. I think that now that we have released the first version and we have some some users testing it and playing with it and building application. And we have realized that most of them are from China and Japan, but most of them are not VoIP people. I mean, they are, I don't know them personally, but they are more people that it seems that they build some kind of web-based applications. Maybe they are used to use Node.JS in server side, and they just find MediaSoup a perfect complement for them to just add multi-video capabilities to their application without having to rebuild from scratch all the client side and server side, because they can already extend what they have already working. For example, if you have already a Node.js server-side application for chat group, and you already have the channels in which the clients send message to others, you can reuse such a channel to just send the MediaSoup information, in this case the SDP, so the multimedia information from the browser. And having that, you don't need to build just a specific architecture or things like that for just integrating MediaSoup. Instead, you just use MediaSoup, add it into your Node.js application, and you get multi-video conference capabilities.
This is, in fact, if you go back 5 years, this was the promise of WebRTC in general, I think, is that it was going to take audio and video capabilities to the web, where a vast realm of developers would be able to add those kinds of media handling into things that traditionally had been not media enabled, to try and encapsulate the magic of media handling in something that made it easier for everybody.
Yes, but that's true. But that may be true for P2P call between just two peers. But at the end, the WebRTC API in the browser just provides with an API for managing the media engine of the browser. It's up to you, up to the developer, how to exchange the media information between peers so they can connect. But even more, when it comes to multi-participants conference, well, that's more than 10 lines of code to have it working, being honest.
Yeah, fair enough. And traditionally the video conferencing world was dominated by MCUs, where much media manipulation was done server side. But this is an SFU, right? This is not that.
Yes.
So before we go into the demo, could you tell us what resources is the demo running on? I mean, let's try to understand how much server side resource it has before we look at it.
Okay. It's a single virtual. Well, it's not a virtual demo, but in fact, it's a virtual machine working on a server. And honestly, I don't know much about the server. It's a server between me and other friends. Maybe you know more about it.
It's a two-core machine. It's a KVM processor. We are running under KVM, and it's a 2659 megahertz CPU.
Okay, so it's a modest machine. It's not a.
Yes.
It's not the kind of thing I would expect to see handling. MCU functionality typically meant either big CPUs or many DSPs. So this is not.
It's a very old server. As far as I know, it's a very old server. So yes, we plan to upgrade, but we don't need it.
So what's the bandwidth it's sitting on is the other question, I guess.
Sorry?
What bandwidth is that server sitting on?
Good question. I have no idea.
Okay.
It's for your information, it's a OV8. The provider is the OV8, which is in Paris, in France. And honestly, I have no idea about the plan we have, because in fact the server is owned by a friend of us, and we just pay every year for our part. But I don't know. I don't know, honestly. I have never tried to check that.
Okay, cool.
And how many people have you had? I mean, how many people have you had connected? I see an image. In fact, I'll share the image because I used it in our little title slide. That looks like, well, that looks like there are a dozen connected, or maybe 13. I can't really tell. Was that a sort of a stress test, or how did that image come to pass?
Okay, it was such a picture was made 2 weeks ago in the OpenShip summit in Amsterdam. I was giving a presentation about MediaSoup, so I started the demo working in the server, in the same server that we are gonna run the demo application. People just joined the conference, and yes, I must admit that is the biggest room I have seen with MediaSoup, and there were 16 participants at the same time, and it worked. It worked fine, even if the internet connection in the hotel, it wasn't very good, but it behaved correctly.
Okay. Well, with that, and I'll ask questions if anybody's got questions, jump on in. But if we dive into what James Bodie refers to as the dangerous demo, we'll dive into the room now and see what happens. And so, I would ask Randy to
go
fix on my screen, and there we go. We're now in there,
Okay.
and I will unmute that room. So we actually have the MediaSoup room interwired video and audio wise with the Hangout. I'm going to take the audio from the Hangout and not run it into MediaSoup because there seems to be a loop.
Really?
Thanks for that.
I'm not sure why that was, but it could be that when it was just me testing things out, it was fine, but with you all connected, it's not fine. So now we're just, the MediaSoup room is feeding audio into the Hangout, but not the other way around. And so could you describe for us like just the user interface components? Because there are some things I've noticed if I click on my little icon here where it says, I have to look around the camera, so where it says the resolution, it changes. So tell us, the design components of all of this. What's it doing?
Okay. Well, first of all, this is just
you're muted.
Sorry.
You're muted in MediaSoup, or it's not using your Hangouts or your microphone or some such.
Okay. Let me mute something here.
Headsets are really good.
Okay.
If
Now,
if it's simpler, we could use the audio from the Hangout alone and not MediaSoup.
I mean that's this is just a demo application. It's not. I mean, it's not a user interface built in MediaSoup or coming with MediaSoup. It's just a demo application. Well, you can do things like changing your camera resolution by clicking into your camera resolution. Actually, you can mute all the others. You can also mute the video coming from others. There is a voice activity detector that you can see in the bar of yellow-orange color. And basically that. There is no much more. It's just a demo application. We provide with the source code for this application, but it's not just the best reference of MediaSoup. It's just a demo application.
Oh, okay. And that would explain why we have sort of arbitrary hex strings for labels for people and such like.
Mm-hmm. It's not hex.
Well, it's okay. It's not hex. It's just text, arbitrary text strings. Yeah. And what are we using? Let's see.
Ow.
So I have a question, which is, I have a lot of nice data here with lots of good numbers, but I don't believe the available bit rate. Where do you get that from? So mine says available bit rate is 56 kilobits. Now, I'm hoping that's not actually true. So where does that number come from?
Okay.
I think it's possible that those of us in the MediaSoup room just mute everybody by clicking on your speaker, and I think it'll work okay as long as you're in the Hangout.
Oh, I left the Hangout. It seems simpler.
Certainly, if you leave the Hangout, that would work. Now I have muted sound from the Hangout, so
That's perfect.
But just to explain, since Michael is moving the audio, you can still mute those leak. I think some of the problems we're having is that you don't need local audio if, I don't know. Now, this is headache time. Go ahead.
Yeah, so explain to us the source of all this statistical stuff we're seeing.
Okay, so well, okay, your question is about the bandwidth, the available bitrate you see, right? Okay, it depends. We have that is something that is dynamic. In the demo application, we just manage it in a very simple way. We didn't spend much time doing this. I mean, this is just governed, managed by the application, not by MediaSoup itself. In this case, as far as there are more participants into the room, we just decrease the bandwidth, the maximum bandwidth for each video sender. And that's why the most participants join the room, the less bitrate they have for the uplink. It's just, but again, this is just how the demo works. It's not something built in MediaSoup. You can apply the logic you wish by following your own needs. It's not something that MediaSoup just works in this way. You can, for example, you can give all the bit rate to one participant and mute the others, or set a very low bit rate for all the others, or things like that. But that's managed by the application, running MediaSoup, not by MediaSoup itself.
Okay, so that's actually really interesting for me, because I tried running Jitsi on my over my home link, which is asymmetrical, so uplink and downlink are different. And if you run Jitsi here, it gets its bandwidth estimation all wrong, because it assumes that pretty much it's sitting on a symmetrical link. Like the math doesn't come out right. But so it sounds like with MediaSoup, I could just sit down and spend some time writing a JavaScript function that kind of represented what my local bandwidth was like, and it would make, that would allow me to tweak it for my environment. Is that right?
Yes, you can set the maximum bitrate.
You are Jose, unmute yourself if you would.
Sorry.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Having two video conferences running simultaneously is just, well, it's more than my head can cope with.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Still muted.
I hear you fine.
I hear him.
Yes.
Really? How?
Maybe in the Hangout.
Listening to Hangout audio.
Okay, go ahead. I'll
Yeah.
look the Hangout up.
So, yes, this is dynamically adapts the MediaSoup server for each participant, gathers the statistics and generates the remote bitrate estimation, and based on the packet loss and other data, tells via RTCP the other end to limit the bandwidth to a certain bit rate that we think we are assuming it's correct. So this will make the other end use as maximum bandwidth as possible. On the other side, what we are doing here is we are setting a maximum bit rate for the room, meaning that for two people we will use the maximum bit rate available, and as long as more participants come into the room, we are dividing the bandwidth of each one. So we are telling to each browser the bit rate that we want to receive through an RTCP packet which is called REMB.
Okay, so does that mean effectively that the video resolution for each of the participants drops depending on how many you've got in the room?
Yes.
Yes, but that is just code into the demo application. It's just because the demo application, we did that just to test for things like that. It's not something that MediaSoup doesn't work in that way. You can make it work in this way, or you can choose your own logic to decide which participants get a higher bit rate.
So the important thing is that you have the handles.
I see a premium version here where if you pay more, you get clearer pictures of yourself.
It could be a feature.
But all of that would be aspects of a service rolled out potentially, or an implementation of a larger picture. And so the idea of like text chat or file exchange or screen sharing or any of that would just be things that would be additionally hang on.
That's a Chrome.
Yes. You notice how quickly that picked itself back up? The only thing is.
Yeah. So I have another question, which is very my question. You can guess. I'm going to ask you about whether you've got any data channel support in the engine.
Data channel.
Yeah.
Well, we expected such a question from you. Sorry, I hear echo.
Yeah, where's that?
No, we don't implement it. Why? Well, I tried to implement it, but I found that the Leaf SCTP library is a multi-thread library, and we don't like multi-threading. MediaSoup is multi-process, but it's not multi-threading. So it will require some hard work to integrate it into MediaSoup. And we could do that in fact, but at the end we have realized that when you communicate with a server, it doesn't matter much whether you use data channel or just a WebSocket. And since this is just about building an application on top of a Node.JS engine, it's very easy to run a WebSocket server into Node, and you can already communicate browsers with it. So I think that the need for a data channel, I don't see much need about that.
We're in serious issues.
Hang on 1 second. I tell you what. Let's abandon the MediaSoup room momentarily. I think we have lost MediaSoup audio into the Hangout just a moment ago when it collapsed. So let's go back to a more traditional approach, and we can carry on talking about this, but we'll try and simplify our operational existence.
Much better.
Right. So I guess the only reason why you would want so there's two reasons you want data channel. One of which is that you get zero round trip creation of new connections, which is still don't think you get that on WebSockets. So you can create a new channel with a different behavior with a zero round trip setup. So you can like create a labeled channel of text chat and then images or whatever, and they don't have to be. It's not one socket. And you can also have different queuing behaviors for different connections. So there's some semantic difference. And I think the other one is that you're in the same, it's actually got the same encryption credentials as the media. Now, in a lot of cases, that makes not much difference, but there might be situations where you care that this file has definitely come from the person who's speaking to you at that instant. It's come over the same encrypted.
Well, that's interesting, but in fact, in the demo application, we are using the same certificate for DTLS and for the WebSocket and HTTP. So I don't know if that fits your needs, but at the end, the encryption is basically done at least with the same certificate in server side, which is something.
Okay. Yeah. So you can tell. Okay, so that's true one end, but the other end isn't. So the server side is using the same certificate, but there's no equivalent client side certificate for the WebSocket, whereas there is for. I mean, it's down in the detail, but there might be occasions where it matters. I can't think of one right now, but banking perhaps or something.
we are not against data channel. I mean, we are not against that. It's just that we prefer to focus on first on audio and video. And data channel has the difficulty I just told about, the fact that integrating such a library into MediaSoup code is not so easy right now. So we just didn't spend much time on it yet.
Right. Right.
If I could proffer an idea for a data channel application, I would say far end camera control would be, in the PTZ instance, would be a really nice thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure you really need the data channel for that. I mean, there are advantages, but you could probably do that over the WebSocket as well. I don't know. Anyway.
Most interesting.
So do you know anything? Can you tell us anything more about your application, your users of it, and maybe even what the business model is? I mean, do they pay a license fee if they have more than 100,000 users, or how does it work?
There is no business model right now. I mean, we are doing this in our spare time. This is a side project, but we are spending more time on it even than on our works. So for now, it's just a side project, but I think that managed in a very professional way. Well, and that's all for now. I mean, we are working on it, and we will be working on it for sure. So that's what it is right now regarding that.
Cool.
Most excellent. And you say that most of the interest seems to be in Japan and China, but you've really just broken cover recently, isn't it? I mean, how long has it been sort of exposed and available to folks?
You mean the first version of when we released? Okay, just maybe 1 month and a half, or just 1 month ago, the first version. So yes, and somehow it got some kind of interest in China and Japan. I don't know why. I know that in some conference in Tokyo, I think some of the speakers talked about MediaSoup, and it was a really great presentation. In fact, I use his slide in my presentation right now. I don't know if that is the cause, but yes, sorry.
I think that most of the success it's starting to have, and most of the traction comes by the fact that we are not constrained to a certain signaling protocol. We are not constrained to SIP. So we are welcoming everyone. We're welcoming almost developers and companies that builds applications programmatically. So they already have their own way to exchange an SDP, for example. They don't need any constraint on that regard, and that's why I think it's starting to be so widely used by developers. And that was our intention. Our intention was, okay, let it be usable for traditional voice over IP, but let it be open to any kind of development or application. And I think that's a really hot point of MediaSoup. Definitely, we think so.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So, James, you're
I was going to ask, where do you want to go with this? I mean, it's clearly a superb demonstration of your capability and your skills as a WebRTC wizard. But where would you like it to go, and who would you like to work with to make it even better?
So I don't know. We already have a roadmap. We already have even the roadmap is in GitHub somehow. We know what we want for the next steps.
Yeah, and what are the next steps?
Next steps are among them SVC, simulcast. We are thinking on a client-side SDK, so we make even easier for implementers to use it. That's a key, as we said before. We want to make it easy for implementers, for people to use it, but really flexible at the same time. So those are one of some of the next steps in mind. Iñaki, do you recall any other?
Okay. Yes, no, basically that SVC, simulcast, some kind of broadcasting, because, well, this is something funny for me. For example, 2 weeks ago when I was in Amsterdam, we did some kind of round table with all the participants and assistants to the OpenShift Summit. They came some guys to the WebRTC table, and it's interesting because all of them were interested in just a single use case, which is that having a single video publisher and many receivers. Well, that's something more related to broadcasting, much more than multi-video conferencing, in my opinion. MediaSoup initially was not designed in that way, but given that so many people wish such a use case, maybe we will do something like that, provide some kind of broadcasting or things like that, just to support this use case.
Okay, so in summary, it's just a set of building blocks which people like dear old Tim here will end up incorporating into a robot dog or a doorbell or even a toothbrush.
I think that the one-to-many use case is really interesting. I mean, because it's the thing that everyone's, I mean, what we're using to do that is we're pushing it out through YouTube and then kind of folding it back in. But if you want to try and make that a subscription service, or if you're like, I mean, I'm imagining that a lot of the people who are using this are doing like Twitch games and stuff like that. So they're videoing a live games match of some sort and then sending it out to subscribers and that kind of thing. There actually isn't a good, I mean, it used to be the thing you did with Flash Media Server, but there isn't a good answer for that at the moment. So I think it's a really interesting thing to be doing.
And certainly we've already proven that to be able to take something like we might do here and relay it onward to whether it's Twitch or YouTube or Livestream or Ustream or any of those has quite a lot of value. And this actually, Facebook Live is driving a lot of this, as you'd be surprised from the streaming media community, whether it be churches or civic associations or politicians. I mean, everybody wants to be on Facebook because they all want that massive audience. And so tool sets that make that possible are having a nice time right now.
Yes.
But it's all just RTMP to a server that's authenticated.
Yeah, but of course there's a subset of people who just don't want to go anywhere near Facebook, and this sort of tool set is absolutely ideal for people like that. So
yeah, no, I mean, I came across somebody who's using this sort of thing for training videos, distributed training videos within the company, and they're mandatory for, you know, you have to be sure that your staff have seen this training video and have attended the training course, but you don't want to try and pay the hotel expenses for them all to show up in wherever it is and actually have to sit through the course. You want them to be able to do it from their desks, or ideally you want them to do it in the evening, actually, when you're not paying them, but that's a bit cynical.
No, definitely it's something that it must be done, because people just ask for features like this. But it is a bit different than the original purpose of MediaSoup, but we must adopt these new use cases.
And challenges at the same time.
Yes, because they are very different architecture. From the architecture point of view, they are very different systems. I mean, having a video conference with N persons, all of them sending his audio and video and receiving from all the others, is much different than having just one publisher and thousands of subscribers. And making that work in real time with no latency is, I think that's the challenge right now.
Specifically, why do you think? I mean, I know that we haven't spent a lot of effort doing it, but why do you think it's difficult?
Well, because you must when you do broadcasting, and I am not an expert in broadcasting, but as far as I know, when you every broadcasting solution relies on CDN that have a cache of video, so subscribers get the cache, and they can put servers into many places and things like that. But when it comes to real time, you cannot have such a latency. I mean, in common broadcasting system, you have 30 seconds of latency, things like that. You cannot do that in real time. So the architecture is much different, and that's why I think that is a real challenge, because it's not the same. You cannot do the same with like if you are just doing HTTP broadcasting or.
So there's your business model. You license this to Akamai to run onto their servers, and you run a federated thing that
Exactly.
that leafs it out into where it's needed. That's a lovely problem space. Not one I can deal with, but no, interesting. And actually with all of the the cloud-based services, you could bring up like an instance in. Like, oh look, we've got a lot of demand in Singapore. We'll spring up an instance on a cloud server in Singapore and fan it out from there and that kind of stuff. No, interesting technology to be looking at. So what's the latency of the server kind of bouncing the packets around? How long does it like hold on to them or?
We don't really hold on. We relay them directly. We store the RTP packets in order to be able to respond to NACK RTCP requests, but we don't have any kind of jitter buffer nor anything. We are relaying it everything real time, with that exception of the cache for the acknowledgement, negative acknowledgement.
Well, we have the NAC, the retransmission buffer, of course. And we ask for lost packet to the senders, but being a SFU, you don't really need a jitter buffer, because you are not the consumer of the video. You just relay the packets, no matter in which order they arrive to the server, and you just forward them to the others, and they
We lost him.
Lost you. Yeah.
He's coming back.
Lost them both, actually. Right, you're back.
Yeah.
So I have one more question, which is, do you have a recording solution? Do you have a recommended way of doing server-side recordings?
Not yet. That's also in the roadmap, but
okay.
It's not implemented. There are different ways to do it, different approaches, and we somehow we don't know how we like to make it, but yet it's just an idea. We don't have an implementation yet, so we are planning on. Well, most probably it's one of the participants of the room is the one who must record the whole room and store it or stream it somewhere. And one of the candidates is it's a browser. The browser itself could be a participant, render the room and store or send the stream somewhere.
Right. Yeah. So kind of positioning this. If you look at the SFUs that are out there, there's kind of Jitsi, which is a full application, which would be quite difficult. It's not difficult, but it's not trivial to like customize, because it's quite a big sort of completed thing. And then in the middle, you've got maybe Meet-Ecos Janus, which is somewhat more flexible, but it has well, partly it's written in C, which makes some people a bit scared. But also it's got a particular use case. And I think it's fairly SIP based, probably. You can do other things, but it likes SIP. And then you guys are kind of even more flexible and less of a rounded off application. Is that a fair kind of trajectory?
Yes, definitely. That you describe it perfectly. Yeah, since the very first moment of since the start of the WebRTC, even if we define the SIP over WebSocket transport, and we really know that this was WebRTC is a web field. It's not a voice over IP field. It's a web field where we are enriching the communications, providing communication. That's why we are focused on providing developers of the tools that they are used to use. So we provide, and yeah, that's exactly how you described. That's the approach we are taking. We don't know.
I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but back on the early mailing lists, you know, we were the people who were saying this is for web developers and
Yes,
keep
sure.
all of this like I don't know how to describe it politely. This history, this legacy stuff out of it, and we lost some and we won some.
The problem with web developers is that they don't vote.
It's crazy in the W3C. I mean, the ITF I get, but you would think that the web developers would show up in the W3C, but they didn't, pretty much.
Yeah, just Cisco guys, yes. Well, fortunately, we don't have SIP running within the browser, which was the first proposal from Cisco.
Yeah, no, we won that at least. It could have been a lot worse.
Yes.
Well, this all has been very interesting, gentlemen, and we will definitely keep an eye on this because we are always looking for new tools, and this shows a great deal of promise. And hopefully, as you have a broader user base to lean on for ideas, then we'll see lots and lots of things coming out of it, and hopefully we'll recognize it underneath impressive new services that get launched. So thank you very much for coming and spending some time to talk to us, and feel free, by the way, to come back and show us what you've got. If you have something that makes you really proud, we're always happy to come and take a look and poke at things. And we don't always break them, but we do try. So last round of questions, gentlemen. We have a couple of other topics we'd like to get to before we jump off, because I know that James is dying to make an Amazon Alexa call. Either that or make Tim's red phone ring.
Yeah, it's about that time, isn't it?
Indeed.
Because yeah, after the fifth or sixth question, my SMS finger starts to itch a little bit. Anyway, so Iñaki and Jose, really great to see you, and it's and you're demonstrating your skills as WebRTC wizards yet again. But with that, I'm keen to talk about the big real-time communication story of the week, which is to do with, well, these things. So I don't know whether you heard about that Amazon have released now